Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm live. I'm in the studio, so get involved in the chat and the comments. Going to be talking about all the latest Manchester United news. As always, we'll be talking about Bryan Mbeumo. What is going on there? Are there any developments on the signing or potential signing of the attacker from Brentford to Manchester United? Plus, Ollie Watkins is in the mix as well. We've been linked with him. Could be something happening there. We'll be getting into that. Also, what's happening in other areas? It's not like Manchester United only need a couple of attackers. We need a midfielder. Do we need a defender? We'll be getting into all the other rumours and reports doing the rounds in the back pages or on the back pages this morning. So make sure, if you're not doing so already, you are hitting that like button and let me know your thoughts on any of the stories we're talking about. Plus, if you've got any stories, let me know. If you're ITK, I want to hear from you as well. And finally, subscribe. If you're not doing so already, subscribe to the channel. I want to get to 810,000 subscribers, and we're almost there. We broke through the 800,000 mark. Thank you to everyone who has supported us. Jacoya Trott's in the chat, says good morning. Peter Mullen is there. Real recognise Real. Andy G. Good to see some of the usual suspects. Brian Casey, Heaven Soul. C. Joe James John, Jordan Clark, JB, Stephen O'Donnell. Let's talk about Bryan Mbeumo and Ekitike. Right, so this is there's a couple of stories here that sort of tie in together. So this is from the Evening News via The Guardian. Man United have been handed a delay in their pursuit of Bryan Mbeumo after Brentford raised their asking price close to 70 million. The Guardian have reported that United are not prepared to pay more than their valuation of 65 million. So we had this last night in Transfers Live. Jamie Jackson, I think it was in The Guardian, saying that Brentford are saying they want 70 million. Contradicting some of the other reports that we'd had, where it was basically that Brentford wanted 65 million. The issues seemed to be how much of that was add-ons, how much of that was an upfront fee. Now it seems as though the latest reports indicate that Brentford are actually saying, actually, we want 70 million quid, which United aren't prepared to pay. So we feel like we're going backwards with this deal. I said this last night on Transfers Live. It's really deflating because last week or so, and earlier this week, we thought, okay, we're getting towards this deal being done. Now it seems as though we're almost as far away from this deal being done as we ever have been since the interest began. Let me know what you think. It is very frustrating. I appreciate as well everyone's getting fed up with it and people want some movement, they want some progression. I want some movement, I want something to happen. But as it stands, the latest reports are what they are. I can't just make it up. Sammy Baba says, Jay, please share your skincare routine. That's an interesting question. I shave my head every day and my face, and I use a bit of, moisturiser and stuff. That's my skincare routine. And a wash. I have a shower. Ekitike is in the mix as well. So, I'm going to... This is a new sort of thing I've started doing, where I have a story and I say, of all the things that isn't going to happen, this isn't going to happen the most. Or all the things that aren't going to happen, this story isn't going to happen the most. And I feel like this is that one. Ekitike player plus cash offer. United are preparing a serious player plus cash offer to sign Eintracht Frankfurt striker Hugo Ekitike. According to Court Offside, United are looking to beat Liverpool and Newcastle to sign the striker, having held initial talks with the player and his representatives. The issue you've got with this, the issues. One, he's got an £85 million price tag. United ain't got 85 million quid sitting around. And even if we did, I don't know if we'd be buying or spending that on Hugo Ekitike. £85 million is a lot of money. That would be, I think, the second most amount of money that Manchester United had ever spent on a player, I want to say. Was Pogba 89? I think with add-ons, we've had players like, I think Anthony was quite a lot, but I don't think he was 85. I don't think Rasmus Høj was 85. I don't think Lukaku was 85. So it'd make him probably our second most expensive player ever. For a player who's done well at Frankfurt, but I don't think he's been like that amazing. He's like a guarantee superstar. So there's that issue. Also, Newcastle and Liverpool are in for him. So there's a potential for a bidding war, plus they've got Champions League football, plus both Newcastle and Liverpool can speak to his representative and say, look, if you come here, yes, you're going to be playing in the Champions League and you're going to be challenging at the top end of the table. Manchester United can say those things, but are they true? I'm not so sure. Liverpool also can say, you're joining the champions of England. That's a fact, unfortunately. So it would be pretty amazing to me if United looked at it and went, he's 85 million quid, we haven't got any dough. Newcastle and Liverpool are in for him. Let's go for it. Let's try and get that signing anyway. We can make this happen. Now, United have got players in the past where it looked like we weren't going to get him. If you look at Lenny Yoro, people thought he was going to go to Real Madrid. But there's a big difference between getting Lenny Yoro when you've got money to spend on him and getting someone like Hugo Ekitike when you haven't got money to spend on him, and other clubs who do have money are willing to spend that money on him. So I've just got a list here of our most expensive signings. Paul Pogba, is it in euros, that? Yeah. So yeah, I think Ekitike would be second, wouldn't he? I think he would be a little bit more than Anthony. Either way, it ain't happening. I just don't think that's going to happen. Let me know what you think. Do you believe it? Do you think we should be going for him? Do you think we could still get him? I don't, but I'm letting you know what's being reported. I'll get in some of the comments. Okay, someone just put in a question. I've just lost it. Isn't Ekitike 70 million? Even if he is, I still don't see us spending that on him, to be honest with you. Jordan Clark says, how is he 85 million when their best player went to Little City for 65 million? Craig O'Leary says, if we start the season with just one player added to the starting 11, what's the target for the season? Is it 8th? Because it will be a long season. Maybe. Tomo says, can we just stop being incompetent and sign Mbeumo? That would be nice. There was a tweet from David Ornstein about 2 minutes ago. So he said, Newcastle exploring move to sign Johan Visa from Brentford after cooling Hugo Ekitike, just because they've probably been scared off by Manchester United. Not. No Newcastle-Brentford contact yet, but expected soon, and personal terms also need to be agreed. Availability and price may depend on Mbeumo case. So I had a look at this story, and obviously Brentford do sell players. They probably would sell Visa if the right money came in. If they got the money they want for Bryan Mbeumo, does that alter how much they're willing to sell Visa for, or is it the other way around? If Newcastle stole a march on Manchester United when it comes to negotiating with Brentford, came in with an offer that Brentford liked for Johan Visa, would that then strengthen Brentford's resolve when it came to demanding 70 million quid for Bryan Mbeumo, because they had a lot of money now? They don't necessarily need to sell him immediately. They could play hardball. Lots of ifs and buts and maybes, but you can get the idea, can't you? You can understand the fact that I think they've already sold someone, haven't they? Is it Norsgaard?
Brentford, yeah.
Yeah. Brentford have sold Norsgaard to Arsenal. Not for big money. I think it was about 10 million quid. I know that's a lot, but you get my point. If they sold Visa as well, let's say, I don't know the figures involved. Let's just say, for example, 40 million quid. I know he's 28, so maybe it'll be a little bit less. Did they then look at it and go, look, we've already sold 2 players. We've brought in 50 million quid or thereabouts. The only reason to sell Bryan Mbeumo is if we had an offer that was pretty much amazing. I don't know. It just worries me a little bit, this. It feels like with the story in The Guardian saying that Brentford want 70 million, which is miles away from where Manchester United, or quite some distance away from where Manchester United are willing to pay, or what Manchester United are willing to pay. Then you've got Newcastle being interested in Johan Visa. It just feels like we're edging away from this happening rather than edging towards it happening, where at the beginning of the week, which seems like almost, months ago, we were hearing reports from Romano, one or two others, that it looked like a deal could be done this week. However, doesn't feel like that is the case now. Now, there was a story in the MEN as well, was saying, I think it was Sammy Luckers in the MEN yesterday, saying United wanted to get this deal done before we went on the US tour. We fly out, I think, next Tuesday to America. Is that going to happen? It feels doubtful to me. There you go. You can see it here. Mbeumo hope for USA. Manchester United are still working on a deal to sign Bryan Mbeumo so he can figure on the club's pre-season tour of the United States. Is that right? So he can... It should be featured, that, shouldn't it? Yeah. Deary me. United have had 2 offers rejected by Brentford, the second for more than 60 million, and club sources are insistent they will only negotiate for a sensible price. Mbeumo, 26, reporting for pre-season training at Brentford this week, but he wants to join United despite a late approach from Spurs after they named Thomas Frank as their new manager. There is a slight edge to this in the sense that we spoke to, I think Laurie mentioned this the other day, and it's a good point that Brentford are a selling club. Wies's probably going to get sold, and Mbeumo eventually probably gets sold. Norsgaard got sold. They don't want to make it look like they're being difficult for players, or in terms of selling players. So there will be an element of Brentford saying to players, look, if you come and sign for us and you give us a couple of good seasons and you want to move on somewhere bigger, we won't stand in your way. But they also aren't going to sell players on the cheap when they don't need to. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. I just want Mbeumo done. I get the idea that it is edging towards sort of stops being a decent price and starts being one where you're overpaying for him. I'm just a simple man, though. I just like signings. And I think he's a very, very good player, and I think he'll do a very good job for us. Let me know what you think. Danny Jackson, who's been a member of the academy for 11 months. We need to pay up or move on. Can't keep dragging on deals. Only going to end up paying a premium for someone else. UK Darren fan says, big up Jay. Joe James John says, oh, we get another class of 93 from the academy. I see no other way out, or in class of 92. I thought to say class of 93 though, fair enough. Bob Bates says, morning Jay, if we can't do the Mbeumo deal, how about putting off a year and doing a loan swap, Rashford to Barca, and we take Torres and put the money on a striker? Potentially. I don't know if that's going to work. I don't know if that's been suggested, but you're suggesting it right now, so fair play to you. Talk about Ollie Watkins. He's on the thumbnail. Why? Well, I'll explain. Ollie Watkins' stance. Very interesting. It sounds like some sort of dance move. United have been handed an update, great, over their reported interest in signing Aston Villa striker Ollie Watkins. Gimme Sports claim that Watkins is open to the idea of signing for United as he waits to discover if the Reds will make an offer to Villa. Now, there's a lot of sort of rumblings going on with Aston Villa and Manchester United at the minute. There was talk that Alejandro Garnacho could be on Villa's radar. Some suggestions that maybe Manchester United could do that thing where I actually think we could sell Garnacho to Villa and then use some of that money to buy Ollie Watkins rather than a swap deal. Because that's sort of what's been mooted, that United could, even though he's dealing with the same club, rather than trying to do a swap deal, which is quite complicated, it's actually easier to just sell one player and buy another one. Would Garnacho go to Villa? Possibly. He wants to stay in the Premier League. There's not loads of options for him, because in terms of which clubs would be in for him, you might go, well, he wants Champions League football. Chelsea offer that, but if Chelsea don't come in for him, Spurs maybe, I think they have been linked with him. City aren't going to go in for him. The Scouts aren't going to go in for him. I don't think Newcastle are interested in him. So maybe he would have to just bite the bullet and go somewhere like Villa. Obviously not Champions League football, but a big club, a good club as well. Watkins to Manchester United makes sense. The naysayers may argue, Rashford went there and kept him out of the team last season. Is that a concern? Possibly. I wouldn't mind if we signed Ollie Watkins. I think that would be a good signing. Someone who's got a pedigree, scored a load of goals in the Premier League, and will be a massive improvement, in my opinion, on what we've got. Not very long term, I think he's 28, but he could do a job for a couple of seasons, and hopefully during those 2 seasons, someone like Chido Obi kicks on a bit, becomes a player that he looks like he could be, and then in 2 seasons' time, he's ready for the first team regularly. Let me know what you think. Let Love Lead says Mbeumo is a must signing. Darren Cox with the greatest comment ever. Get Danny Welbeck back. Shay Delane in the super chat says, could Newcastle buy Garnacho or Rashford to Newcastle if Isaac goes to Liverpool for the reported 120 mil? Liverpool playing, doing some shenanigans, aren't they? So if you've not been keeping up on this, basically, Newcastle are interested in Hugo Ekitike. Liverpool wanted Alexander Isaac. The rumours were that Newcastle would only sell Alexander Isaac for mega money, like Florian Wirtz type 150 million style money. Then there was reports that Liverpool actually looked at Hugo Ekitike. So they were going, right, okay, we could buy your target and maybe get Isaac cheaper further down the line. Lots of ifs and buts and maybes there. We'll have to wait and see. Steve M says, Mbeumo deal getting done and Cork smashing tip in the All-Ireland would make my weekend, which means neither will happen because I never have good weekends. Don't worry, Steve. Good weekends are on the horizon. A good weekend will start this weekend when we batter Leeds. Yeah, have faith. UFC MMA says, Jay, look at Watkins' numbers over the last 3 seasons. Absolutely clear of anyone else we have or are linked with. His numbers are very good. Like I just said earlier, I'd say Ollie Watkins. I don't think he's like the answer to all our problems, but he's a striker that would start for United and get more goals than Rasmus Højlund, and a decent amount more goals. I think I said this last night. You don't just want someone who is better than what we've got, because he could argue that what we've got in attack at the minute isn't great. No disrespect to the lads, but Xerxes, we don't even know if he is a number 9. Chido's still very young and raw. Højlund's had a very poor season, and the jury's out on whether he's going to regain his mojo at Manchester United. Someone who came in and scored like 8 Premier League goals would probably be a step up, but is that enough? No. Ollie Watkins could get you a decent amount of goals for Manchester United. I wouldn't be completely against that move. I think it'd be quite a decent one. Doesn't, he's not, like I said, he's not the answer to all your problems, but he's certainly a big answer to some of them. Glenn F says, Glenn F was having some gremlins in his machine. Andrew James says, it concerns me if we start spending big money on players that weren't primary targets. We had half a season to lay the groundwork for this summer window, but at the moment it does seem a bit rudderless. I agree. You wonder what is going on with Manchester United. I always thought Manchester United would have some intel on Mbeumo and Brentford and whether they could get, or we could get him for a certain amount of money. I always thought we'd know, look, we can get him for this. This'll get the deal over the line. And it doesn't seem like that's the case. It doesn't feel like United and Brentford are on the same page at all. And we're now in what? We're halfway through the transfer window, just over halfway. The first bid for Mbeumo came in 6 weeks ago, I think. And like I said earlier, it feels like it's gone backwards. Just on Garnacho, I know I mentioned him earlier. I think there's been a couple of stories on that. Yeah. Rashford and Garnacho unlikely to stay at United beyond this summer. We know that. It might be an 11th hour bid from someone to get them in. We might just want to get Rashford off the wage bill. It might be a loan. Someone suggested earlier about a loan move to Barcelona. He has been linked with Barcelona. He's also been linked with Juventus as well, Marcus Rashford. We'll have to wait and see if either of those two pan out. I did mention Garnacho has interest, I think, from Chelsea, Spurs and Villa. So it looks like there could be something happening there. I just want to talk about a midfielder. This is the kid from South America, Richard Rios. We've been linked with him. So AS Roma look like they're going to get him. They're going in with a €27 million plus €3 million in add-ons, which is decent money. It's not like extortionate, is it? Decent deal. The Colombian midfielder wants to move up to Palmeiras, as they always requested, $30 million fixed fee. Benfica made several approaches, but not an official bid so far. I don't really like to talk about players that are nothing to do with United as such, but I have spoke about Richard Rios quite a few times over the last few weeks, so it was worth mentioning. We are linked with some midfielders. We do need a midfielder. We're going to have Carl Anker on the channel today, and he did a great article for The Athletic, I think a couple of weeks ago, looking at our midfield options, potential midfield options, who Manchester United could be interested in, who could get. So we'll get into that, and we'll see what he's got to say about where United go from here, because at the minute, it just feels like all eyes are on Mbeumo, doesn't it? The midfield area is just sort of getting neglected, but I'd be very surprised if United weren't at least looking at midfielders, because it does feel like in this system, we're lacking someone, because you can't really rely on Casemiro anymore. We don't know what's happening with Manuel Ugarte. It just seems like him and the manager are not on the same page. Does Kobbie Mainoo fit into that role that we want him to, or that the manager potentially wants him to? Hopefully. I love Kobbie Mainoo, but we'll get into all that. Let's talk about Estupinan. I mentioned this yesterday in my news, and I sort of poured cold water on it. 30 million quid for a left back. We've just bought Diego Leon. We've also got Patrick Dorgu. Can this happen? But people are saying, look, this has been spoken about quite a lot. I think it's Talk Sport about it, but one or two others have had it as well. There was some suggestion that there could be a swap deal with, is it with Anthony? Yeah. So, Brazilian news outlet UOL report that Brighton are one of several sides to have inquired into the available of Anthony. The winger does not feature in Amorim's plans and has openly discussed his desire to join Real Betis following the success of his loan spell. Could he do a job for Brighton? Would they have him? I'm not sure. I think Real Betis suits him. I think he'll end up staying there. I know there's a bit of an issue with the fee. There was talk of this rent-to-buy scheme, wasn't there, which sounds absolutely bizarre. Something like you're doing when you're looking for a mortgage. But we'll have to wait and see. I'd be very surprised if this all happens. I would. Sancho deal off. What's this? All right, so Juve in for Conceição. Does that mean that Sancho deal is off? Some people on social media have been suggesting it does because he's been linked with a move to Juve. We'll have to wait and see on that front. Yeah, you can get rid of that now. On Jadon Sancho, I've seen he's been out and about, and it was it wireless. And I see some people losing their mind of him posting things on his social media, enjoying himself. He's not a popular guy, is he, amongst the Manchester United fan base, Jadon Sancho. He needs to move on. Marcus needs to move on. Alejandro Garnacho needs to move on. We need to sell some of these players. Anthony needs to move on. Hopefully we can get these deals done soon, and hopefully we can get something happening with Bryan Mbeumo. And if not, we move on and we go elsewhere, because we do not want this transfer window to get away from us. And it feels almost like it is doing right now. We're going to be back later on today. We've got Off the Bar, myself, Joe, Adam McCullough. We've also got a chat with Carl Anka and another interview as well coming up. So make sure if you're not doing so already, you are hitting like, share and subscribe. I'm Jim Moy. This has been The Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.